Okay, so in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to actually log in from the front end of the React application. So what we're going to do is we're going to go inside the landing page. So this is going to be the main page that the user is going to see. Okay, this is pretty much the guest page. Now I'm going to let you guys design this however you want, so I'm not going to bother designing an actual landing page. Remember, this is mostly focused on the functionality rather than the actual UI design. Okay, so that's why I don't want to focus on just that, because I feel like people have their own ways of designing things. But we're just going to basically have a simple button. We'll give it a variant color of orange, and we'll just say login. Okay, there we go. So when we click on this, it's going to log us in. Okay, so let's go ahead and add an on-click event. And we're just going to go ahead and create a function called login. And all this is going to do is just change the location. And we want to set the location to the URL that handles logging us in. So since we're in localhost, we're going to do localhost port 3001. And this is going to be the URL that we set up in the Express app. So remember in the last video, or last two videos, if you look over here in the backend, we had routes auth. The route itself is /API/auth/Discord. Okay, so /API/auth Discord. And if we were to even visit this route directly, it would pretty much take us to the authorization page for Discord. So when we click, we're going to just pass in this function, and it's going to redirect us to this page. Okay, so let's see what that actually looks like. I know this is a little bit weird, but I'll leave it like this for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on this button, and it's actually going to not do anything because we need to start up our server. Let me actually open up the project real quick. Discord bot dashboard. So we're going to see into dashboard, backend. I did rename my projects, by the way. Okay, so we're going to run this in the background. Okay. And so what's going to happen is I actually did not do this in the Express video, but I'm going to show you exactly what you need to change. So you're going to go into auth.js, and you can see right over here on line 6 for me, we have this redirect URL. Because remember, when you are successfully authenticated, it's going to redirect you to this endpoint. And originally we had it as res.send 200, but instead what you want to do is you want to actually redirect it to the actual home page. Okay, so you can redirect it to localhost port 3000 if you want, but we're going to redirect it to the menu page. So this is our React app. Now obviously in your production application, you're not going to redirect it to localhost, you're going to redirect it to the actual domain page. Okay, so but for now we're going to pass that as a localhost port 3000. So let me just make sure I don't have any cookies saved right now. I do have a cookie saved, so let me just clear that. That was from like a different video, but let me show you what happens. So we're going to click on login. It brings us to this page. Okay, this is happening from, where is it? This function over here. It's setting the location of the window to this URL, which then takes us to the Discord OAuth 2 authorized page. We click on authorize, see how it redirects us to menu. Okay, and if I look over here, we have a cookie. This part is important because we have the cookie now saved on localhost port 3000. Okay, so that's good. So now every request that we make from this domain, we want to make sure we're sending the cookie to the backend, so that way the backend knows who we are. Okay, so what's next? Well, we've pretty much successfully authenticated ourselves. So now what we can do is inside the menu page, we want to actually only allow people who are authorized to visit this page. Same thing with dashboard. Okay, because right now anyone can actually access this route. So what we want to do is we want to do a couple things. We want to make an API call to our backend server to check to see if we are authenticated. So, for example, in the Express video, you saw right over here, I implemented this route over here, and it basically tells us if we're logged in or not. If we're logged in, it's going to send back the user object. If we're not logged in, it's going to send back a 401 status, unauthorized. So what we're going to do inside the menu page is we're going to hit that endpoint. So we're going to basically do const, and I'm actually going to do this first. We're actually going to use React hooks. So first I'm going to go ahead and declare a couple variables. We're going to go ahead and do const user, set user, and this is going to be equal to react.useState, and we're going to set this to null for now. Okay, and then what we're going to do next is we're going to use the use effect hook. This is going to allow us to make the API call first. So this is, you can kind of think of this like the original lifecycle hooks in a class-based component. So this use effect will be hit for the first time. So we want to make an API call. So I'm actually going to go ahead and install Axios. So let's start that up again. And I'm going to go ahead and create a separate folder called utils. And I'm going to have a file that's going to be dedicated for fetching data from the API. So we're going to import Axios from Axios. So we'll do export function get user details. And we're just going to return axios.get, and we're going to pass in the URL to call. So that's going to be localhost port 3001/API/auth. And you want to make sure you pass in with credentials set to true, because if you don't do this part, it's not going to send the cookie. And if you don't send the cookie, that means the server's not going to recognize the cookie at all. So it's going to send back an 401 unauthorized. So you want to make sure you are sending the credentials, you're sending the cookies. That's what this does, okay? So now we're going to import that function. So get user, let's do import from utils API, get user details, and we're just going to call get user details. We're going to call then, and I'm going to just destructure the return value like this, because Axios will return an object. Okay, so let's take a look at this data. So I'm going to go ahead and visit the menu page now, and if we go to the console, you're going to see that it actually says network failed, and the reason why it failed is because it's been blocked by cores. So we need to go into the backend API now, and I'm pretty sure we did install cores earlier. We didn't. Okay, so we need to install it. So just simply go into the backend and do npm I cores. So it should be added as dependency. And what we're going to do is we're going to just import cores just like that. And then right all the way on the top of for everything else, we're going to say app.use cores origin http localhost port 3000, and then credentials set that to true. Okay, so let's restart the server and let's refresh, and there we go. So we have our user object that was sent from the database, as you can see right over here. So let's clear the cookie and let's actually refresh, and notice how it says, let me zoom in a little bit, or wait. Notice how it says get localhost port 3000/API/auth 401 unauthorized. The reason why it says that is because when we sent the request to the server, we didn't have any cookies. So since we didn't have any cookies, it tells us that we are unauthorized. Okay, the cookies are important. So now we actually have to relog in. So let's go ahead and relog in. Authorize. Okay, and if I do Control-Shift-I, you can see I have the object right over here. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so now let's do one more thing. Remember, we want to protect this route. So if the user is not logged in, we're going to bring them back to the main page, which is the landing page. Okay, if they are logged in, then we're going to allow them to view it. So I'm actually going to do set user. So I'm going to call the set user, and I'm going to pass in data. Okay, so basically this will update the state variable user. I didn't really explain this earlier, but basically what we did here was we used the react.useState function to create a state variable, and we also created the setUser variable, which is actually a function which is used to update the state variable of user. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so now let me just do one more thing. I'm pretty sure this is probably looping infinitely. Yep. So if it loops infinitely, we have to add an empty array. This is called a dependency array. So that should stop it from looping infinitely. Okay. And so one thing that I want to do is if the user is not logged in, we are going to redirect them to the main page. So one of the props that are passed in is the history prop, which is from the router. So I console log props. You're going to see we have this object right over here, history. So I'm just going to destructure it like this. Okay. And if the API call fails, so if the user is not logged in, it's going to throw the error and it's going to catch it down here. We're going to do history.push. We're going to push it to the main route. Let's see what's going on over here. Props is not defined. Oh, there we go. Okay, so since we are logged in, this is going to work just fine. Let's go ahead and clear the cookie. Let's refresh. Notice how it redirected us to the main page. If I go to menu, it redirects us to the main page. That's good. That's what we want. Okay, let me do one more thing. So let me declare a variable called loading, set loading. So this variable is going to keep track of the state of our component. It's going to tell us whether or not if we're in the loading state or not. So it's by default when you first visit it, it's going to be loading true, and it's going to not load anymore once we've received a request or a response from the server. So right over here inside the callback function of .then, we're going to set loading to false, and then same thing down here in the catch, set loading to false. Okay, and now down here we want to render the menu page only if this set loading or this loading variable is not loading. Okay, so if it's not loading, so return not loading, and we're going to render a div, just do h1 menu page. So if not loading, so if loading is set to false, we're negating the truth value of it. So if it's true and this, it's going to render basically this. Okay. So let's refresh, and you can see right over here, if I go to menu, it automatically just redirects us here. Let's click on login, authorize. You can see that we are authorized. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, and of course we can protect the dashboard page the same way. So we just need to literally copy the same logic right over here. Okay, so we can just do this. Like that, copy all this right over here. Let's actually import that as well. Dashboard page. Oh, we need to destructure the props as well. Okay, cool. So now let me go ahead and one more time clear the cookies, refresh, brings us back to menu. Okay, if I go to, or I'm sorry, not menu, the main landing page. If I click on login, okay, we're going to get a cookie now. Now I can visit dashboard as well as menu. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. This is how you can protect your routes as well as logging yourself into the website with Discord. Okay, so in the next tutorial, we're going to get started on setting up the menu page. And that's pretty much it for this video. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.